In a previous video, you saw how I created a pattern of a skirt. We're going to make this skirt pattern that we cut out with the Godets from the fabric we got from the sheet. We're going to start with the center front, and we need to place it on the fold, and here's our fold line. Lay it down and pin it. Next, you want to add your side front, and because I like straight things going together straight, just take your side front and flip it over, and that way you can have the straight side lining up with this to save fabric. I'm going to go ahead and lay out the side back as well, because there's enough room for it to go over there without any problem. You now have your center back. Now the center back doesn't have to go on the fold, but we're going to put it on the fold, and we're just going to slice it down the middle. Alright, pin the bottom. Now we have the Godet pieces. Remember, we need to cut 6 of those, so I'm going to lay the pattern down right here. Pin it in place. And we're going to cut those 3 times. So when I cut this, I'm going to flip it over, cut it over there, then flip it again and cut it over there. Now we have the last piece is our waistbands. And I'm going to go all the way down here to the end of the fabric. I'm going to put the waistbands going across the fabric. So I'm going to line them up. We're ready to cut out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the bottom first and work my way up so I can cut the Godets out. Now mind you, we're cutting this skirt out from the fitted sheet, and I'll show you the dress that I made from the flat sheet. This is the dress that I made from the straight sheet. I wanted to show you how I made this dress, but unfortunately I lost all of my videos that I had previously recorded, and this was one of them. As I get closer to the dress, you can see I have a couple of pleats right here at the front. The waistline is elastic, and then to tie the whole thing together, I added a contrast hem, which brings out the background color of the print. Also, you'll notice on the neckline, I did a piping that matches the fabric at the hem. This is the back of the dress. It just has a simple zipper, regular zipper going down the back, and the elastic goes around in the back as well. Now that all the pieces are cut out, let's work with the front. Now remember, we're adding the Godets in here. And what you're going to do is you're going to line the Godets up. Let me just take one. This is your Godet. It's going in at the bottom of the hem here, and it's going to stop right here. So you've got to mark where you want to stop sewing. Now remember, we left a 5/8 inch seam allowance, so you're going to come down 5/8, which is right there, and you're going to put that mark right there at the 5/8. Now once you've done that once, you can use the same measurement for all pieces. So what I like to do is, since this is the bottom, this is where the Godet's going to be, I like to take my scissors and make a little clip right there, like that. So that lets me know to stop there. I'm going to do the same thing for the back. I'm going to line it up with the top, because everything's, you know, pretty much the same width and length, rather. So I'm going to mark that one as well. And that's all I'm marking, so we're pretty much ready to sew. Here are our 2 waistbands, front and back. This is a iron-on interfacing, and I'm going to go ahead and just cut this out. Okay, I went ahead and ironed in the interfacing on my 2 pieces. Everything's cut out now, so we're going to work on the front only. So we're going to pick up the center front, and we're going to attach it to the side fronts. So here's our center front. So I'm going to take the pins out. And when we laid our fabric out, we laid it out right sides together. You'll notice on your side front you have a straight section and you have a curved section. The curved section is the side. This is going to be the center that connects to the front. So you're going to take the top of the center front, lay it face down, and you're going to be sewing on this straight side right here. So you're going to put the 2 together, the straight sides together, and you're going to pin it in place. As you pin it, you're going to pin it all the way down till you get to that little cut that we made, the little slit that we made, which is right here. Here's that little slit, and here's the other slit, so they're going to line up. So you're going to pin down to the slit. Now you'll take the other piece of the side front and do the same thing. So go ahead and pin everything together. Pin the front to the back down to where you got the little slits that we're going to add the goddet. And you're going to do the same thing on the back. Now here's our center back. Remember we placed it on the fold. So what you want to do now is you want to open up that back seam simply by just cutting that open. Okay, once you got that done. Now remember right here we put a mark for the zipper. So let's go ahead and put a little clip right there. These clips that I do replace darts. So now working with the back only, right where the slit is in the back, you want to take this, pin this, and you want to sew this all the way down. Now, going back to our picture, on our picture, this is a picture of the front, but the back is identical except it just has a seam down the center. You're not going to put a goddet in the middle of the back. So you're going to take the back piece and you're going to stitch it from the zipper mark all the way down to the bottom. You have the center back sewn and you got this opening right here, and this is for your zipper. Now is the time to do finishing on your garment. So what I like to do is I'm going to serge mine. That's just my habit. And I'm not serging it open flat. I'm gonna serge it closed. So I'm going to do a clip right here just below where the zipper is. After I do that clip, I'm just going to serge this edge all the way down. So my center back has been serged. Of course, you want to go and press this, but I'm going to press everything at one time. So now the back and the front both are connected. So what you're going to do now is you're going to sew your seams, and you're going to go back and you're going to serge the edges if you want to. If not, leave it unserged. Remember to stop at the cut where you're going to add the goddet and make sure you back stitch there. Here's the front put together, and if you pull it up, you see you've got the openings right here, and this is where your goddets are going to go. So here's the back. There's the opening for the zipper. You pull it up, here's our center back seam right here, and there are your openings for your goddets. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my zipper in, and then I'm also going to attach the sides together so we can go ahead and add the goddets. I've inserted my zipper. I know it's kind of hard to see, but that's the whole idea. If you pull back, you see my zipper there. See, there's the zipper. So now we want to work with the goddet areas. You're going to grab your goddets. Now we're going to work with one at a time, but you'll repeat the same thing for each one that you do. So I want to show you what it looks like. This is where the goddet would ride right up inside of there, kind of like that. So what I like to do is I like to pin the bottom first and work your way from the bottom up. And when you get to the very top, you're still going to pin it all the way up to the top. Now that you got that one side pinned, you're going to flip this over, and now you're going to pin the other side. And then that's the goddet pin in place. I know this fabric is kind of hard to see, but let me lay it out like that so you can see it. But here's the goddet piece right here. When you go to sew it, I like to sew from the bottom up. And when you get up to the top, it's hard to see this, so I'm going to point. But right here is your 5/8 inch seam allowance. So when you sew 5/8, you're going to sew right here, back stitch, and stop. Then you're going to flip it over to the other side, and you're going to pick up the 5/8 inch seam allowance again, start right there, and stitch down. My fabric is kind of hard to see, so I made a paper pattern of what I'm doing. So imagine this is my skirt front and back, and here I've sewn it down to the opening where I want to add the goddet. See, there's the opening there. There's the 5/8 inch seam allowance. And here is the goddet piece here. What you would do is take right sides together, and imagine the goddet has a center seam. That center seam is going to line up right with the stitch that you did there. So let's work with one side. You're going to take the goddet and you're going to pin it in place on that one side. And then you're going to turn it and you're going to pin it in place on the other side. And see, and there's your goddet piece that's kind of sticking out in the middle. So as far as sewing it, if you were to lay everything flat, the goddet would kind of lay flat as well, kind of like almost like that. So here's your center line. So you open it up. You would actually start stitching from this line right here. You would stitch 5/8 inch seam allowance, of course, with the goddet all lined up. And that's where you would back stitch and start right there. And then when you got to the other side, you do the same thing. This is where we stopped when we were stitching straight down. This is your 5/8, so you would stop right there, start right there, back stitch, and you would line that seam up with the goddet, and you would stitch straight down. So I've sewn the goddet together. As you can see, here's the garment, and the garment portion lays straight. And you see the goddet has that nice flare. Now let's flip it on the other side. You see on this side of the goddet, you got one straight seam going straight down, connecting one side of the goddet. And if you were to flip it over on the other side, you'd also have one straight seam going straight down for the goddet. So if you were to open it up flat, this seam could go flat here, and the goddet seams would press flat like that, and this one would press flat like that. So now you have the insert put in, and everything's laying flat, and when you flip it over, you have a nice flat center. Compared to our paper, here's the paper pattern that I did to show you the insert. Here is my insert in the garment, and as you can see, there's the insert right there. And if you look closely, you'll see that you got a nice flat seam. All my goddets have been inserted, and what I decided I'm going to do on my hem is I'm going to do a simple double fold hem. This is where you turn it up once and turn it up again. So now we need to attach the waistband. We're going to take our waistband piece that we added the interfacing on. You're going to take it and you're going to press it in half. Here are interfacing pieces. This is the front and this is the back. I cut the back in half because we got the zipper. So what you're going to do to start, I'm going to take the front waistband, I'm going to fold it in half, find my center point, put a pin there, only on one piece of fabric, and then I'm going to find the center front of my skirt and then match that up with the pin mark that I have here. And now I'm simply going to pin this all the way over. Now you want to make sure the waistband's added after you have finished your seams, because once you sew this down, you can't go back and finish your seams. So now when you lay this down, you'll open up that seam and it'll lay perfectly where the back and the front come together. The waistband has been pinned all the way around. So what we're going to do now is we're going to sew a 5/8 inch seam allowance. Now what I like to do when I start to sew my waistband, I like to take the extra fabric that's on the zipper and I like to wrap it around the zipper and sew across that. When I get to the flat portion of the zipper, I'm going to fold this back on itself and stitch a 5/8. Now the waistband's connected. You want to go and trim off some of the seam, and see there's your fold line, so you're going to fold it down on the fold line. And what I like to do, I know everybody does this differently, but this is the way that I like to do it. You're going to fold this up and you're going to bring this portion down, and you're going to fold up and tuck right there, and you're going to put a pin in. So what you do, if you want to, you can go and press this seam up, but I'm just going to do a finger press. And as I bring this down, I'm going to fold this over and make sure it covers over the seam and pin this in place. And you're going to do this all the way around until you finish all of the waistband. On the side of the zipper that doesn't have a flap on it, I'm going to release that waistband. I'm going to take the waistband and fold it down on top of itself. I'm going to stitch across the zipper, over and then back up. So for that side that has the short part of the zipper, not the flap, but the open side, now you're going to turn that right sides together, and you should have two corners. And when you turn it, you see you have this nice little corner on the end. So now you're going to take the fabric, continuing to fold it under, even right where you made your little corner, and continue to pin this all in place. Now this is where you'll check your waistband to see if your waistband looks okay or if you need to make some adjustments, and sometimes they can come out uneven. So I'm going to zip this up, and as you can see, my waistband looks pretty good. So now that that's done, we're going to stitch in the ditch on the waistband. I'm going to stitch really close under the stitch here. Now, if you want to be absolutely sure that you got the fabric, you can stitch on top. So I'm going to show you how to do this on top. To stitch in the ditch, you pull this back and you stitch right here in the ditch. But if you want to make sure you got it, just stitch on the top of the seam. So my waistband has been added, and you can see it's been stitched. And by doing the little stitch that we did, by stitching it on the top, when you flip it, you know that it caught your flap or the facing on the other side. So now you're just going to zip it up, and now we just need to add a hook and eye. To add my hook and eye, I want the trouser hooks that look like this with the little piece like that. And the hook and eye is done, and you just simply hook and hook. So there's our skirt. It's all hooked in place. It's all finished. We've got our godets at the bottom. Like I said, it's kind of hard to see them, but there they are right there. You can probably see the change in the fabric right here, and that's where they've been added. If you flip it up, you see where I've serged the seams. This is the finished skirt, and I hope that you like it, and I hope that you will try this. Happy sewing!